do with it, I'll tell you. But yeah, there was a whole host of people. And obviously, man, just quickly here on the Raw and SmackDown fallouts, because the big news, Kurt Angle got hit like Ronda was hitting him with a handbag about a dozen times. And then she apologised later on social media. So she's off doing whatever she's got to do to promote. But yeah, I mean, I guess that's their quick fix of dealing with that. I thought it was quite stupid, if I'm totally honest with you. But there you go. Poor Kurt Angle, Matt. Honestly, it seems like it's getting worse. But yeah, I mean, going into Extreme Rules, Matt, they're going to set this thing up now for a number one contender. I can't say I'm really that excited because, again, like most times, Matt, isn't this just going back to what we've already gone through, you know, I don't know how many times now, 15, 20 times of, you get these pay-per-views, they want to set a number one contender up, Roman Reigns is in now, it's obvious, isn't it? I mean, honestly, I can't see it being anybody else other than Roman Reigns. Matt, you got any, could you spread any light if it's not Roman?
I don't know, Seth Rollins recently lost his IC title, so I'd say he's got a shout at doing it, perhaps. They freed him up for some reason, so it would be pretty interesting if he got the nod ahead of Roman. Then we could see that they're not all that keen on Roman anymore, and that they may be looking to someone else to fill that slot. And the thing with Seth Rollins is he's hugely popular. You know, everyone respects the guy, and everyone knows what a great worker he is. He is the ideal, sensible second choice ahead of Roman, really. Mm-hmm. So I would prefer it if they did it that way. I doubt it's going to be Bobby, you know, despite the fact that people have said, you know, that would be kind of a match they'd want to see, Brock versus Bobby, but I don't really feel that it's at this time. I feel like Bobby still has to pay his dues. WWE like doing that. They like people to come back from a little break and then make them work their arse off for a year just to prove they're dedicated enough.
Yeah, I don't think I'd like to see that matchup right now. I can't imagine what the interview promos will be like for that. God dear. On one side you got Brock, you know, shooting things up in Canada, and then you got Bobby running around with his sisters getting hit by a broomstick or something. It's not really what I want. I still can't believe, Matt, that interview was legit. I cannot believe it. You know, no matter how many times I still go back and watch it because it's so hilariously cheesy. And you look at all these layers, and I'm thinking to myself, I think this is a work. I think they've done this on purpose, because he's smiling while saying like some kind of crazy things during it. But no, it was all supposed. I guess that was their way of saying this is the guy to cheer for. Everybody, he's a happy guy all the time. But yeah, I don't know. He's not in the right part yet. Okay, guys. I said we'd talk about this during the show, so I'm going to give you guys, if you don't want to hear too much about the NXT, NXT the UK tournament that came over here this past week. We're not going to give any results out. We're not going to talk about any results or the sort of matches. We're just going to talk about the show in general and obviously the announcement. I think everybody pretty much understands, but if you don't, this is the part of the podcast where you don't want to listen at this point. Come back to us in a short while. But Matt, obviously we've got the news. The big news, I guess, coming out of it was that now it's NXT UK is going to be its own brand, and they've already sorted out some tapings for July. I think the first ones are in Cambridge, and they're going to start that. And I'm guessing, Matt, that's going to be a network exclusive. And they're going to see how that goes. What did you make of the announcement, Matt? And what does this give the UK and also the WWE for that matter?
Well, of course, it's big news for us. It gives us something to look forward to every few months or so. A big NXT show. Regardless of the fact whether it's the Americans or not, I'm hoping for some sort of talent share where we'll get some names from the American show and then we'll exchange some for the British show, and it'll make an equal balance, where we can actually have some name power along with up and coming talent. That would be great. But if it is just British talent, that's also fine, because anything with a WWE banner over it will be great for the fans, because they really do know how to work a show and put over some great talent. So I'll be looking forward to that. I'm not sure I'll be chasing all around the country like I do for the American version, because they're established stars. maybe next year when this show's taken off a bit. And I'm hoping the support is there from the very start, because I'm sure this NXT is going to need all the support it can get. And we saw that when we went to the arena, and it wasn't as full as we was expecting. Yeah, hopefully it does better than that, because we could do this. And there's so much talent in Britain, so many talented British wrestlers. It would be brilliant for them to have a stage like that to showcase what they can do, and then perhaps they can further their careers and hop across the pond to America.
Yeah, I've got to say, while we're doing this podcast, the first night was extremely bad, to the point where myself and Matt were going to our seats. For the first night, actually, we booked kind of lesser seats at value, because we thought the second night will be the main one anyway, so we'll buy the expensive tickets then. But we actually we ended up going straight back down, because we were given kind of resale tickets that they hadn't got rid of, and we were reseated automatically, Matt, right down at the front. And it was at that point, Matt, where I was looking around thinking, oh my gosh, this hasn't gone down well at all. And people were asking me from the US, why, because whenever they see it, the takeover and stuff it always does well, and it's always popular when it comes here. Even TNA sells that. But for me, I just think it's the lack of promoting outside of the WWE realm. I think if they'd have put a little bit more into... Now, I know Triple H was on Good Morning TV, but that was on the day of the second day, so that was no good. But what he really needed to do was some serious promoting, not just on the WWE network, not just WWE internally, because all you're asking there for, Matt, is the WWE fans to come along. But what they've got to realise is there's an English fan base for wrestling, a British fan base for British wrestling, that watch most of these guys on the indies. So what will happen, Matt, what I think will happen, is that eventually you're going to get kind of a hybrid crowd of sort of half WWE and sort of fully fledged indie, UK fans. And I know there are plenty of people out there, Matt, that only watch UK wrestling. They do not watch WWE because there's so much promotions around at the minute. So they know all these guys in there. I think it was just a case of sort of bad, what they really should have done is all these sort of minor promotions that they say they're working with, IPW and all that lot. They should have ran promotions through them to their audience and got them that way. But for some reason they didn't, and I think they fell well flat on that. The second night, I will say, did pick up. It wasn't a sellout though. I know that WWE claims it was for some insane reason. I don't know why they do that. It was obvious it wasn't. There was still plenty of seats around. It wasn't as bad. The balconies were filled out more, but it definitely wasn't a sellout by any means. But yeah, I just think that there is enough name power. I do think they'll have to sign a few other names to kind of get it going, but there's plenty of names around the UK, Matt, that they can still get a hold of. And it was cool to see, finally, Matt. I mean, this is such a powerful thing. I feel that Triple H has kind of, I think he's been trying to get this over the hurdles for some time now, since at least the first time they come here. But trying to get its own brand has probably been quite difficult. But yeah, I think this is a really good move for British wrestling. I think it helps it. It's again for aspiring wrestlers in this country. This is a great avenue, and it's good now because WWE themselves now realise that you got to be like other sports around the world. If you're the only big dog in town, it's not enough just to have your before NXT they had sort of nothing going on. They just literally ran OVW for many years, but they've now realised here that the only way they're going to have talent coming through is if they actually have their own sort of smaller sort of developmental products out there. So I do think this is a good thing, and a lot of the guys, a few of the guys I remember working with in the FWA, so it's great to see them there. The likes of Dave Mastiff, El Ligero, of course we saw Zach Gibson as well. Very much the heel of the night. I'll give that much away at least. That's for sure. But yeah, it was a great I kind of enjoyed it. I don't think it was quite as good as last year's tournament, but the only reason is because I think that was for the belt. That was like the first one, and I think it was always going to be hard to, replicate that again. But I think the second night was really good, and I recommend everybody to check that out. We'll talk about more of then. Matt, I just want to give everybody, because everyone's been saying like there's this little rivalry at the minute between World of Sport ITV, Matt, and WWE UK, and obviously NXT UK now, and this is the reason that they've got in sharply. But I don't know. I've heard, I won't say who I've been talking to, but he's a well-known promoter, and he often talks to me. He sends me little bits of news now and then, and he's pretty good about it because he knows I keep my sources safe and protected. But reading about some of the first tapings, Matt, of this ITV stuff, I can't say I might not be looking forward to it all that much. It's got all the sort of things that I disliked about the first one going on. I'm sure you remember, Matt, when they were on like Good Morning Britain, and they had them all turn up in wrestling attire. And oh god, and it was like, why are you doing that? Like, come on, like we're sort of past that. And I felt like they were a little bit out of date. Now I'm thinking they may still be out of date. Apparently, from what we're getting, this is from Dave Meltzer's report here, and it only sort of increases my sources, what they've told me about it. And let me just read you from Dave Meltzer here. A major note on the talent that worked the ITV tapings is that, in a sense, they were first wrestlers in modern times to perform under a collective bargaining agreement since they were treated as television actors in the UK. Now, the deal falls under the UK ITV agreement, and terms used primarily for those on soap operas on ITV. The Equality Union negotiated the minimum rate for a collective bargaining. The talent was also able and encouraged to negotiate above the minimum. The performers were treated like any other talent in dramatic production, as far as having their costs associated with being in the area performing taken care of, as far as their travel and accommodations. However, during the tapings, no fan paid an entrance fee. It was all an audience members show again. This was not a wrestling crowd, and therefore the atmosphere was very flat, much more child friendly, but also on the lines of the UK Gladiators that came up in the 90s. I've got to say, if that's the case, I'm out. I just don't like it, and I know we should have lots of different varieties. And the only thing I'll say is good luck to all the guys that have got jobs there, because it's great for them. It's another place they can get exposure on. ITV is a massive channel, but for me, being a wrestling fan, and this is just purely as a wrestling fan, not doing this podcast, but for me as a wrestling fan, I cringe at the thought of this sort of stuff, Matt, when they say, they're actors and they're getting paid like the lots of Emmerdale and Corrie. It's ridiculous. I really do feel like ITV, like, what makes me laugh, Matt, is they had like Triple H turning up on Good Morning Britain, which is ITV. I'm thinking, well, how are they not seeing how he's presenting it? Do you know what I mean? Like, who's working this thing? So yeah, we'll see how it goes. Obviously, what is apparent is they haven't got as much resources as perhaps they'd like, but they have got the channel. I mean, they will get a very decent spot on a Saturday entertainment. But Matt, when you hear about sort of going back to the Gladiator days, it's not the sort of thing I'm much looking forward to, if they're going to present it like that. And here's the big thing, and I really feel like this is a massive problem with it, is when you have audience members rather than a paying crowd, it is not the best at all. They're getting people in there literally to scream. They're holding cue cards up when to do it. I'm not for that at all. I'm just not for that. Matt, what's your take on it? Am I just being a bit of a grump?
No, I agree with what you said there. It's when you look at how wrestling's evolved and progressed, yeah, there will always be that connection to the younger audience, but a lot of us have grown up with it, and a lot of us are older now. And especially when you look at the UK tournament we went to, there was no kids there. And I think that might have been part of the reason it wasn't doing so well.